Hello there, and welcome to the Campfire Med Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Rogers, Doctor of Medical Science, PAC, joined as always by my co-host, Christopher Stone, Doctor of Medical Science, PAC.
That's right, I'm here.
Yeah, podcast for health, wellness, current events, anything else we feel like talking about. From a PA perspective, physician assistant, physician associate perspective, make sure to like and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube, uploading videos to YouTube as we speak. That's new for here in season 3. If you've just now tuned in, we have 2 other seasons available through wherever you get your podcasts that I uploaded of some of our older episodes. And then now, starting in season 3, we have audio and video on YouTube, so check that out. And then our disclaimer that we always put in here, the information we provide today is not a substitute for your recommendations from a trusted medical professional, so please make sure you take them as such. Okay, Chris, what's up?
Yeah.
We're back, week 2 video.
Week 2.
I had to make sure I wore my scrub top to make sure I looked good and profesh.
Yeah, you do. You look clean. You look sharp.
Yeah, thanks. You still got the flower walls at the shop in the background
for
there.
now.
For now.
Yep, I've been working on it today, so we're gonna have more of a P&W vibe here, more of a green
mountain.
It's gonna look good. Yeah, and gold, green and gold.
Avocado toast.
I love it. Yeah. Kind of funny. It's actually similar to the Rocky colors. Interesting, but avocado toast. I love that. That's gonna be great. I can't wait to share that with somebody else. So
Rocky Mountain College, go Bears.
Yeah.
Our alma mater for PA school. Anyway, so a couple of things to talk about this week. In general, we try to talk about some current events. We try to talk about some PA stuff. Every once in a while, we talk about totally random things that don't have anything to do with anything. But this week, a couple of topics. First, the wildfires currently affecting California. Also talk a little bit about bird flu. And an interesting article from Johns Hopkins School of Public Health regarding some concerning changes with that. And then we'll wrap up with our experience with the NCCPA new recertification exam, the PANRE-LA. I feel like the PA profession is essentially just a bunch of acronyms. Like, do we write out or spell out anything ever? It's always acronyms.
Yeah, I remember. You remember being in school and they were like, write everything out. Don't ever use that.
Yeah.
That's all we do.
And then now it's like that's the only thing we do. So anyway, okay. Yeah. So California wildfires. California is a state in the United States, if you're not aware of that already, and they are on fire. And it's bad. And so specifically the 2 things I wanted to touch base on, and then you can talk about what you've looked into this with, Chris. But number 1, just, why is a wildfire concerning to health, physical health? And then the mental health impact or mental toll. So just real briefly, I'm looking at the American Lung Association, and they have just a real simple kind of statement of what really is the danger of wildfire smoke. And the biggest problem is the pollutants found in the smoke, and particle pollution specifically, which is a mix of, I'm quoting them here, very tiny solid and liquid particles suspended in air. They're very small, less than 10 nanometers in width, which is about a third of the width of your hair on top of your head, even though neither one of us have much.
Like, yeah, it's like what hair? What hair? What are you talking about?
Beard hair, I guess. Yeah, beard hair.
Yeah, would be nice. Would be nice to have that back.
Living in the past.
I mean, that doesn't seem like that doesn't seem very big. That seems pretty small. Even thin hair that's thinner than a thin hair.
Right. And so the concern with that is that, even basic protective equipment, the first thought is, okay, I'm going to put like a handkerchief over my mouth or something, and it's just simply not going to do enough to block those particles from getting into your lungs and causing problems. And then, of course, carbon monoxide. So colorless, odorless gas. It's a waste product of fire, burning things. The biggest problem with that is that it hitchhikes onto red blood cells and reduces oxygen delivery to the organs and tissues. Oxygen is important for our organs and tissues. Those are 2 things that are concerning with wildfires. The physical impacts of wildfires, because things are burning that are, things you probably don't want to be inhaling: plastics, heavy metals, paint, lead paint, that sort of stuff.
So good.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about that. Inhaling some paint. I'm glad you brought that. Especially that air quality. We all talk about every time wildfires come up, like the air quality index comes up.
AQI.
Right. Yes, the AQI always comes up, and that's incorporates a bunch of different, it's like ozone and all those fine particulates you were talking about. I guess I really just want to delve in on it to be like, the higher numbers obviously means more air pollutants, which then means, worsening health risks. So like a normal day in, at least in that area in LA, is like 50 to 60, right?
which is still not
And then,
great. Which
yeah,
is,
that's right.
to
It's
be
not
clear,
great.
even just
That's not.
baseline is not great.
Yeah, that's right. It's not great. It's not great. And I mean, there's always like a smog over LA, right? So it's always there anyway. So these wildfires, and this happens with most wildfires anyway, but wildfires can take the levels up to 400, even above 500, which is
Yikes.
obviously just like don't ever go outside, you know.
Yeah.
So to kind of give you an idea on how bad like 4 or 500 is, an AQI level of 100 to 200 is like smoking a quarter pack of cigarettes a day. So you know that's like a pack a day. Just if you're hanging out outside. So and the air is just like you said, it's like toxic soup, right? It's not just like wood, trees, and organic matter. It's gonna be other stuff, homes, cars, paint, just stuff, roads, So it's a whole bunch of stuff that you're inhaling. The lead paint probably. I don't know how many homes there probably still have that. It's probably got stuff from Diddy's house in there, so it could be some. So,
That's a weird turn, but hey, I mean, put that on the promotional segment of the video. That'll get people to click.
That's right, that hot take.
Yeah.
Diddy's house burns down.
Diddy's
so,
house. Okay. All sorts of
so
oils released into the air.
that's right.
Uh,
That's right.
okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that sounds bad, Chris. I don't know. Smoking's
It
bad,
does.
and then just being out in it and breathing is like smoking, what'd you say? Quarter pack?
Oh yeah, a quarter pack a
Quarter
day.
pack cigarettes a day. Yeah,
Yeah,
yikes.
100 to 200. So if it's up at 4 or 500, imagine how many that really is. Is it? I don't know if it actually is the equivalent of, um, you know, if it multiplies times four or whatnot. So obviously the people in the area are at risk. Interestingly, the firefighters that we send down there, they get exposed to the worst smoke, which leads them to higher risk of like lung cancers, other cardiovascular diseases. Obviously, kids are especially vulnerable. I was reading that pregnant women have an increased chance of preterm birth and lower birth weights. I was like shocked when I was reading about that. So, um,
Yes, I
the
mean, it's not
recommendation.
just, sorry,
But no,
it's not just the physical devastation of, your house burning down or your business burning down or the local library burning down, but it's the continued mental and physical toll as well, which is a good segue into the mental impacts of it, which I think are perhaps a bit understated, as with most things in mental health care. Um, uh,
yeah,
CBS News
yeah.
has a pretty good article about the mental health toll of wildfires. In specifically, this caught my eye that up to a third of people who have directly experienced a wildfire or other natural disasters will, within a year, have a diagnosis, including depression, anxiety, or post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's a significant mental health burden, takes a significant mental health toll, um,
Okay. And
beyond just
how
the
are you there?
physical problems. So it's a legitimate problem, legitimate concern, and it will continue to affect people physically and mentally for probably years. So anyway, just wanted to talk about the health impacts of that. Anything else to add to that one?
Yeah, I can absolutely see how, anxiety, depression, PTSD, all these people that are losing their homes and everything, they're like told to fill your car with what you can and leave, and that's it. And now your house has gone down and nothing's there. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would be like, even if you had to start over. I also heard that some insurance companies had pulled out of the fire, like covering fire a couple of months ago. So that's even more devastating for those people to be like, now what do we do? Our homeowner insurance doesn't cover this damage. I can't even imagine what that would be like to just be like, oh, probably your one major large purchase in your life is your home, and now it's down to rubble, and you don't have anything to fall back on. I don't know how people recover from that financially as well as, emotionally and mentally. That would just be absolutely devastating and extremely difficult to go through.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that it just impacts every aspect of people's lives. And so as healthcare providers, we have to be aware of that. So if if you're working with people that are either directly or indirectly impacted, you have to consider the significant toll that this type of thing takes on people, whether it's these fires in particularly or natural disasters in general. So, okay.
Have you ever had like been around somebody you knew who went through like a fire, like their house was on fire for any reason?
Not that I can think of directly. The Lahaina fires impacted my family a little bit, but not directly or not as significantly as the people that were on the island at the time. So, yeah, I mean, luckily, no, haven't had anything major like that. You?
Yeah, when I was younger, like well before we were even thinking about going to PA school, I was in undergrad and I was working at a retail job, and one of my managers, their house had caught on fire and burned down, and we did whatever we could, just like bought food for them. They had insurance, which was helpful, but it takes time for insurance to get through that whole process. And then we actually bought their kids like a basketball hoop, just so they would have something to do,
Oh,
since
sure.
they were like, well, we just. Yeah, I was like, well, we got this basketball hoop because they were younger, and they was like, well, I think they were in junior high at the time,
Right.
and so we got them a basketball hoop to give them something to do, and they were just ecstatic because of
Yeah.
course they also lost their basketball hoop in the process, and so anyway,
Yeah.
just an anecdotal story to
Well, it
add to
shows the
that.
importance of small little bits of kindness, right? And how something like that you
Mhm.
wouldn't really think of it being a big deal is probably a really big deal for them at that time. So,
Yeah.
kudos.
Oh, and it really was. Yeah, they were so excited from it. So
Nice.
excited from it. Well,
Well,
yeah.
very good. Let's move on to something equally alarming / depressing. So, bird flu, been around for a while. H5N1 is the specific variant that we're talking about here. The biggest thing that's kind of put it in the news here recently, again, looking at an article from Johns Hopkins Public Health, the Louisiana Department of Health announced that a patient hospitalized with H5N1 avian influenza has died. That was on January 6th of this year, 2025. So that's the first reported death directly linked to H5N1 avian influenza.
So
Okay, sorry if there was any gaps or technical difficulties there. I apologize. At any rate, we were talking about H5N1, and the big thing being that the Louisiana Department of Health has announced that someone has died from this, marking the first death directly related to it. So, yeah, I mean, basically, to summarize the article here, the biggest concern is that now it seems to be impacting humans a bit more, even to the point of someone dying from this. 66 active infections at the time of this article being published, which was on January 14th, so yesterday. I'm sorry, 2 days ago, 2020, January 14th, 2025. So, yeah, Chris, give me your thoughts on this, just hearing the news of a death from this.
yeah, it's a little bit more worrisome. Just that it's jumping species. You never want to see viruses that we learn like that are jumping from species. And how is it? I guess I wonder how it's mutating, and how it's affecting people. Flu-like symptoms, or um, you know, nausea, vomiting, muscle, body aches, sneezing, diarrhea, rash, fever, all the good stuff that comes from that. Severe fatigue. Is there an altered mental state with these people? Other milder infections with like conjunctivitis or just cough, sore throat, runny nose, those kinds of things. Fortunately, we have treatments for this, which is pretty great. They have antivirals like Tamiflu or Relenza, Rapivab. Those are great depending on pick your poison. What that is: Tamiflu is an oral med, Relenza is an inhaler, and then Rapivab's an IV option. So at least we got options for those. So I like that.
Yeah. Yes. So basically, to recap where we're at with specifically the H5N1, started out, found it tested positive in milk that was coming from cattle, mostly in California, and then became a problem in birds, specifically in poultry products. And this most recent person who unfortunately died from this was thought to be infected by a backyard flock of chickens that had become exposed to some wild birds. Those were all found dead at this person's home.
Oh my gosh, that's how they get infected. Just a run in from some other birds.
Yeah, can. Yeah,
Wow. I mean,
yeah,
this is fascinating. Just because I had a random chicken end up with my flock of chickens last week, which I don't have anymore. And I'm like, I don't even know how this chicken got in my yard. I'm like, they're basically flightless birds.
yeah,
I have a fence,
yeah.
so I'm like, how does chicken get into my yard? So,
They can kind
and
of
now it's hanging out.
hop, fly, right? Like they kind of jump and fly a little bit, but not to get over a fence usually.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, where did it come from? It like wandered over. Like so.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully you don't start exhibiting flu-like symptoms. So if you do, you need to go and get tested. Testing is very important.
Indeed.
The more we test, the better surveillance we can have. The biggest concern that a lot of the public health people have right now is that someone becoming infected with both seasonal influenza, which is something we live with every year, and this newer H5. Specifically, they're worried that if you were to be infected with both, they eventually can come together and swap genetic material.
Oh, that's fun. That's a fun twist. So
Yeah, they can swap a genetic material, which is called reassortment. Apparently, I was not aware of that. I should remember that from genetics in undergrad, but I don't. So
yeah, recombination. That's right.
yeah. So at any rate, as with any sort of public health problem related to an influenza, the recommendations are what they usually are. Wash your hands, cover your cough. If you have any sort of symptoms, don't go out in public. Don't expose yourself to multiple people. And then specifically with the H5N1 avian component, try to be careful around livestock, bird or otherwise, is really the big recommendations. Get your flu shot. I know it's controversial, but I would absolutely recommend getting your annual flu shot if you're able to. Anything else to add to that?
Get your pneumococcal. If
Yeah.
you're older, get your pneumococcal.
There you go.
Those are the recommendations from the CDC.
Yeah.
Get your pneumococcal. So
yeah,
don't come down with pneumonia.
Here's a really good quote that I saw today. Actually, it was from a pediatrician who wrote some sort of report or essay that was published, I believe, in one of the pediatric journals. And it was a pediatrician saying, parents asking me to recommend a good pediatrician who does not believe in vaccination is like asking me to recommend a good physicist that does not believe in gravity. So I thought that was a pretty good quote, because this is a tried and true tool that has been proven safe, and in my opinion is one of the greatest public health wins in human history.
Yeah.
So something as simple as getting poked can save a lot of people. So anyway.
Oh, it really does. It really does. And prevents like severe diseases like
it's
measles.
Not small stuff. Polio.
Rubio.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. Like there's a reason that we have not had, crazy outbreaks of that. Measles is starting to come back because of people not getting
exactly
their kids vaccinated, and those will kill people.
Yeah.
We don't need those coming back.
No.
So
no, thank you. Okay. Anyway, so last bit of the show, last topic to discuss, the PANRE-LA from the NCCPA. So NCCPA, National something for Certification of Physician Assistants, National Committee for Certification of Physician Assistants, the PANRE Physician Assistant National Review Exam, LA, what does the LA stand for? Long acting? Longitudinal assessment. Longitudinal assessment. There you go. Okay. Probably should have researched what all those stood for before we started the show, but hey, we got it.
I'm right. And
we got it eventually. This. So, basically, it is another option for PAs on how to take their national board recertification exam. So if you've been a PA for 10 years, you are due for recertification. Traditionally, it is a winner-take-all high-stakes test. We're one of the few professions in medicine that have those requirements, where essentially you have a test. If you fail it, it's a threat to your ability to practice. And so they're coming up with this new version. We detailed this more specifically in a previous episode, so make sure you go check that out. I believe season 2, not sure, but go check that out anywhere you get your podcasts. At any rate, both of us did it. You're able to start, in the middle of your 7th year? or right
Uh,
before your 7th year, or I'm sorry, right before your 8th year?
yeah, right. So I think it's 7 because you take one each quarter for
Yeah,
12 quarters,
for up to
and you have to
12
pass
quarters.
8 of
And you got
yeah,
to
up to
pass
12
8 out
quarters. You
of
got to
12
pass 8.
quarters. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at any rate, happy to say that both of us passed in the 8 quarters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Did not have to redo
Yeah.
or skip any. So we are now recertified for essentially 11 years now. Also got us some CME. That was kind of nice.
That was a nice added bonus.
Is it
I did
2
enjoy that.
hours? 2 hours per quarter, something like that. So you get 16.
Yeah, something like that. It's two. Yeah, you get 1.5 times the credits, so you get like 2 or 3, which is
Yeah.
really nice. So
Yeah. So
I appreciate the extra help.
yeah, I thought it was a great way. Honestly, I mean, even though it was technically open book and you can look things up, I did learn a fair amount. You have to kind of think on your feet and think under a little bit of pressure, which I think is helpful, but
Oh yeah,
not so much to where, trying to cram for one big winner take all exam. Some people don't do so hot on those. So I thought it was a good way to do it. I'm glad that I did it, and we'll probably do it again for my next recertification if I'm still doing this crap at that point.
yeah. If this doesn't take off,
Yeah. Yeah. If we're not professional podcasters by then I'll just
yeah.
renew, I guess, for another 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think it's a nice way. As we're when oftentimes PA specialize, like you were in orthopedics, people go in cardiology or pulmonology or whatever specialty they're in. I do
Yeah.
think it's a nice way to um, be like, yeah, you still need to know a lot of those things like CPR, ACLS, and some of those major issues. But if you're like, I haven't done OB-GYN since I was in school,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not really pertinent to my profession. It's really hard to be like, yeah, I should be tested on all that, which we are. We are tested on that, and it was part of
Yes.
our exam. But this gives you a little bit of help to be like, I haven't seen it in 10 years. Like in our case, 7 to 9. It's like, okay, well, should I really be tested on that? Well, they are going to test you, but you're going to have a little bit of help to hopefully get the right answer. So I really appreciated that because and there were some tough questions on there, even just about cardiology. I was like, dang,
Yep.
that's a question.
Yeah,
Oh my
well, and even
gosh.
with the open book component, it's like, man, I'm not even sure how to look that up, let alone, yeah. So yeah, it's still, even though it's, again, open book, quote unquote, I thought it was still a pretty challenging test. And I think hopefully it provides a good measuring stick and makes sure that it keeps us on our toes and that we are keeping up to date with things and being safe when we
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I went back through a lot of the questions before my last round to just kind of be like, okay, well, how did I miss those questions? Which because they do retest you on topics. Like if you get one wrong, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna retest later in later quarters.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back like, okay, well, let's review some of those so that if I miss some, like let's not miss those again. And so I thought that was helpful. And they do take into account too that some of those questions are terrible questions as well. They were just like, hey, this is an awful question. So they did throw some questions out just because they were like, it's awfully written, or maybe it's the difficulty level of it. Not sure what their reasons for removing them were, but they did at least review the test portions that we had on there, test questions. So I also appreciate that from the committee to be like, hey, how good of an exam is this? So
Yeah, I
other
thought it was well done. It was well done. And so it goes on kind of a running cumulative score. So the
Mhm.
scoring, as with most of these standardized tests, I find to be very confusing. But whatever, I got the little thing that says I passed. So what are
That's
you gonna
right.
do? Yeah. So
It was a different scoring system too, wasn't it? I didn't
yeah,
realize that.
yeah. It's like the passing score was like an 1150 or something, and then you have like the average, and you have your cumulative score, and your cumulative score would change based on where you were at in the process. So it's sort of an interesting thing, but you could keep track of it. So you kind of had an idea of like, yeah, I'm getting close to that pass line, or wow, I'm actually, I'm really kicking butt right now. I'm doing well. So I thought it was executed well. If we feel the need to retest for recertification, I think this way makes a lot of sense. And that's, if it's available in 10 years when I do it again, I'll definitely do it this way again.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'd be terrified to take to have to study and take
Yeah.
the old one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I know a couple of our classmates are elected to not do that. I'm curious. I mean, I'm sure they'll do just fine, but the preparation for it, I'm like, that's a lot of time. You
Well,
still have to put it.
there's a
So
whole industry behind that, right? So there's like classes that you go and it's like a boot camp where you go for 3 or 4 days,
yeah,
where you go for 3 or 4 days and you basically just do nothing but study for the test and then you go take it. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I much prefer the PANRE-LA.
yeah, me too. Me too. It was a nice reprieve. I think it was much less stress as
Yeah,
well.
for sure.
And then not having to, yeah, again, go to a testing center. That's never an enjoyable experience. Fingerprinting in and out, and cold room. I was able to do this at home, and um, a quiet space that you're comfortable in, and so it's like, oh, that's really nice as well.
Yeah,
So,
agreed. Well,
um,
very good, Chris. I think that's all the time we have this week. Do you have anything else to add before we let these kind folks go?
no, that's a good one. These are good topics. I love it. So can't wait to see what we talk about next week.
Yeah, same. We probably should figure that out.
Yeah. Oh, we got a whole list. We got a list of stuff.
That's true. So this has been the Campfire Med Podcast with Steven Rogers and Chris Stone. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Again, check us out on YouTube. I think that's hopefully going to be a pretty cool new addition for the show for us, is to have the video component with it. So make sure you check that out as well. Still working on getting a newsletter set up for people. So if you have desire, you can sign up for our newsletter.